And what is your goal at this point? Like, you want to establish a library with all this information where the average person go and review it?
All I could do at this juncture was to try to take people through the experience that I had, share with them who was involved and what was taking place in 1998 when it seemed to have, there was kind of a bright spot there for a moment, and it seemed like this was coming forward and was going to be addressed by John F. Kennedy Jr.
Right.
I was very encouraged by that, and I thought, my God, this could make an impact and may change the direction of the country. But that didn't happen, and it went very differently, went very badly. Of course, I was serving federal at the time when John F. Kennedy Jr. died, and my lawyer perished in this, died, and my mother perished, and Wright perished. There's a lot of people that have dropped along the way on this, and I'm constantly lying. So I figured, well, I held it back. I didn't want to think about it. I wake up with nightmares every other day and about this. And I said, well, finally, I've come to the conclusion in my life that it just, the records did not come out and the release through to President Trump. And I thought, God, I owe this to President Kennedy and Senator Kennedy, and I owe it to John F. Kennedy Jr. I owe it to Evelyn Lincoln and the people involved in this. And I owe it to the American people involved just to share the story.
What was your problem, John F. Jr.?
Well, I'd like to keep that for the book, but I think people misunderstand John Jr.'s position on this. I think most people would think he was not as interested in these things and was given direction by his mother to stay out of it. And of course he was, but at the same time, he was very much interested in pursuing this from me and from other sources. He had done an interview with Castro and taken his time to get his facts straight, and he had worked very hard to get his magazine up and going, which was a open forum in U.S. politics and a very important magazine. It may have been one of the most important, if not the most important magazine on politics in the country at that time. And of course, and if he had come forward with information about his father's death and about his uncle's assassination, it would not have been censored. It would have been allowed to go forward. And of course, coming from him, it would have had weight, and would have had substance, and would have had an immediate impact.
And so, do you find his death suspicious?
Well, I've been instructed not to comment about that. Like I said, he was very interested in gaining the information, the evidence that I had from the limousine. There was money on the table involved in that transfer. Again, I'd like to leave some of that information for the readers to have in the book.
Okay. Now, also, too, after reviewing all this material, have you come to conclusions of the nuts and bolts, like who the shooters were, the assassination teams, that kind of stuff?
I understand from what we were exposed to and briefed upon that I understand the parameters of this and what place and what happened. As far as who pulled the trigger, you have to think. I know that that's something that people concentrate on with the very heated intensity. But whether you work in a mobster position or an intelligence officer or a foreign officer or anything else, you work under instruction, under orders, and things happen for reasons. One who pulled a trigger was given that order to do so and thought they were operating under he was given. So that I'm more interested in sharing a story of what happened to me, and it does give the overall parameters what happened on, including a 9-day countdown when President Kennedy was in Dallas of what the resolve was going to be and what they were trying to do with Cuba. Mm-hmm. Because that was the catalyst of whether we were going to go to war, whether we were going to have a peaceful nation, whether we were going to democracy was going to be surviving, and President Kennedy was putting it all on the line for the American people. He was very much of a constitutional president. I can tell you from listening to the recordings, he put the American people first. Every American life was extremely important to him, and he sacrificed his life for the betterment of the world and for the rest of us.
Well, so have you. Can you tell us a little bit more about how much time you spent in prison? Do you have a felony conviction right now? Was there parole, probation? How has it affected your life since you got out?
Well, I mean, obviously I have a federal conviction. It's interesting from a foreign government standpoint who contacted me and said, we don't consider you to have a criminal record. What we consider is you breached an agreement or had a problem with the United States government. I find that very interesting that one government has one perspective and the other government has a entirely different perspective. But yes, it's affected my life and it's affected my rights and it certainly is a concerning thing. I think about that quite often. If you have a 3-strike rule in the federal system, you're going in for automatic life, and life in the federal system is life. You don't get out. There is no
good time,
early release. No, you're dying in a facility. Period. And when they've got your DNA at Quantico, Virginia, and they have all that information on you, you do think about that, and it is a concern. Now, obviously, I haven't jaywalked since this period of time, and I like to think of myself as a mature and upstanding citizen that breaks no rules or laws. But at the same time, you have to think of agendas and be concerned about those type of things.
Yeah, absolutely. No one can go. These cops say, "Listen, you can't drive 5 blocks without having some reason to pull this guy over." And no one can live your life. You're filling out applications here and there. You don't remember every date, every income tax number, It's so easy for them. And then they get you on mail fraud and all that crazy stuff. So forget it.
That's right. Well, the federal laws just keep increasing every year. They keep writing more and more and more of them. And so, the average American probably breaks 10 laws a day unaware. I mean, that's maybe that's a wrong statistic, but I'm throwing that out there. But it's certainly within reason, because if you look at the buildup of federal laws on the books, if you want to look at the buildup of our arms, now I certainly don't think it's a bad thing for us to have a strong national defense. But at the same time, if you look at the amount of money that's escalated since World War II and what we spend on a defense budget, you could take every country in the world and multiply it by whatever you want, and then there's our number. So it's again, I'm not advocating that we don't have a strong defense, but I think a lot of this is being allocated in maybe not the correct way.
Well, Mr. Fulton, I want to thank you. You've been a heroic caretaker of this material and this information. You've been very professional, very responsible with what you're doing here, and you're heroic. We have a couple of minutes left. What do you want to leave us with?
Well, I guess I'd like to leave you with 2 things. One, there was a security officer at Parkland Hospital. This is just a small piece of information to think about. That officer was given 2 pieces of evidence in Parkland Hospital. One was a bullet found on the stretcher, which I believe they called CE 399. The other was a wristwatch that John Kennedy was wearing that was very close to the head wound. Wasn't supposed to be in the car, wasn't supposed to be wearing that day. So both of these pieces of evidence were in this person's possession at the same time. One of those pieces led to the big cover-up in U.S. history of the facts for the American people, and the other was used to covertly, to avert World War III. And I find that the juxtaposition of that very interesting. And of course, everybody in America knows about CE 399, but they don't know about the other evidence that Bobby Kennedy utilized to keep us out of war. The other thing I'd like to leave you with is the fact that I owe it. It's not just my story. It doesn't belong to Bobby Kennedy's mantle. It doesn't belong to Robert White or just myself or JFK Jr. or any of these people. It belongs to the American public. And so in that, I hope I'm doing the responsible and right thing, and I hope it's a positive effect by putting this information out there.
Well, thank you so much. People can find you at cmfulton.com. You're going to be on Coast to Coast AM with George Noory on the 21st, 10 p.m. And the book is called The Inheritance, Poisoned Fruit of JFK's Assassination. It'll be in the Opperman Report bookstore. You can get it on Amazon. It's Tryon Day Press. Good old Chris Milligan over there, Tryon Day Press. Thank you so much, Mr. Fulton.
Thank you very much, Ed.
Good night. Okay, so there we had Christopher Fulton. We'll be right back after these messages, a little wrap-up stuff. Hey, do you like what you're hearing? Do you like the work that you see us doing here at Opperman Report? You can support that work by becoming a member at OppermanReport.com. And as you have access to over 200 exclusive shows and interviews that you can't find on YouTube or Spreaker or iHeart or iTunes or KYAH. You can't find them anywhere else online, exclusive to our member sections, to our members. Also, too, there's images, videos, documents, court docs, a lot of content there at OppermanReport.com. And it's the memberships that support the Opperman Report and allow us to play these shows for free on Friday nights and Saturday nights on all the stations you hear us on. You can also make a donation at OppermanReport.com. If you want to support the show and become a member, I can give you a discount. I'll give you 13 months for $65 if you email me directly at OppermanReport@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can hear your ad played here on the Opperman Report, reach hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people on a daily basis because the show is repeated every day all over the world. Contact me at OppermanReport@gmail.com and I'll give you a good deal on advertising rates.
It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Opperman.
Okay, welcome back. Thank you so much, Christopher Fulton, cmfulton.com, and the book is The Inheritance, Poison Fruit of JFK's Assassination. Hey, if you like today's show, please check out OppermanReport.com. We have our special exclusive members section with exclusive content, exclusive shows, and by become a subscriber to Opperman Report, that's what keeps the show on the air. As a matter of fact, right now we're dropping a lot of stuff. Awake Radio's off the air, and we're losing KYAH. We can't support that anymore. So really, if you want to keep the show on the air for another year, we got to get some memberships in here and some funding to come in. You can also make a donation, or you can advertise on the show. If you can advertise, we get some sponsors. We could be adding more stations instead of losing stations. So, you know, we got a lot of listeners out there. So if you can just please support the show and keep us on the air, that would be really nice. Thank you very much. All right. Good night.